So in the Far East, they have something called the Chinese bamboo tree. Now, the Chinese bamboo tree takes 5 years to sprout, and for it to sprout properly, they have to water and fertilize the ground where it's planted every single day. And it doesn't break through the ground until the 5th year. But once it breaks through the ground, within 5 weeks, it grows to 90 feet tall. And the question is, does it grow 90 feet tall in 5 weeks or 5 years? And it's an interesting question. It's a good analogy to one of the most important keys to success. And what I've observed and calculated with a ton of detail, and not only with just myself, but also with all of the students who've come through this program, the people who get the best results and change everything and change their lives and have massive, earth-shattering transformations, it always starts with the mindset stuff, not just the tactical and strategy stuff. And trust me when I tell you, I used to be the person who said, oh, your mindset stuff, can we please just get to the tactics, right? That's why I'm here, to learn about exactly how to do this. I don't care about all this fluffy mindset stuff. That is how I used to think. And when I had that thought pattern, I didn't achieve anything of real worth. And that's when I actually began to study myself and my choices in the cause and effect relationship. And what happened was I began to really reflect and study myself. And that is when I began to make massive transformations. So regardless of how you feel about mindset, I really encourage you to let go of any negative sentiments or feelings of uselessness or dread concerning learning about mindset and about your own mind, because it really is one of the most important things. And trust me when I tell you, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you skip this video, you probably skip other things in your life too. And your results and where you're at right now probably reflect that. And I'll admit, right, this is going to be a longer video. It's going to be a lot of information in one video. If I were you, I would watch it, take notes, and then watch it again and just listen, right? Find somewhere comfortable and just sit and listen to this video. You really want to go through this multiple times, because this video, and I really mean it when I say this, has the ability and has the tools to enable you to completely change your life. Because what happens is someone will just focus on the logical, tactical stuff, but they'll get frustrated, right? They'll get burnt out, they'll lose focus, they'll drift back to their comfort zone or their old habits or the patterns that their brain was used to. But once you can actually reach someone in their core and change their perspective and their worldview, even just a fraction of a tiny bit, all of a sudden you unlock massive lifelong transformations. And I used to just teach tactics, and what I noticed is that people weren't getting the massive results that I knew they could get with the information I was teaching them. They would just understand the tactics, but because they didn't believe in the tactics or believe in themselves, they wouldn't implement them consistently. And even if they understood the tactics, they didn't feel worthy of success or that they were capable of breaking out of their comfort zone. And if you believe you'll be successful and work hard, you will be successful. If you're planning for anything else, you won't be successful. It's as simple as that. And sometimes I know that sounds a little bit over the top, but it's one of the most meaningful things I could possibly teach you. What you think is what you think about. And before you roll your eyes and gloss over this, let me explain. Whatever we think is what we end up thinking about. And then whatever we think about is what we think. And then what we think is what we think about. And it's this never-ending cycle. These are called feedback cycles, and they can either spiral negatively or they can spiral positively. And let me give you a couple examples really to cement this. If someone is feeling depressed, they generally don't feel like going outside, right? They don't want to go out and talk to anyone because they feel depressed. And because they don't want to go out and talk to anyone, they get sad and they feel lonely. And because they're lonely, they get more depressed. And it's this vicious downward feedback cycle. And we see this in the real world all the time. Another example, nothing increases the price of a stock more than an increase in the price of a stock. If a stock shoots up, it's likely to go up more. If a stock price goes down, then it's likely to go down more. This is why stocks can just start spiking like crazy, and also why they start to drop like crazy. Or think about it, when people start to leave a party. Once one person leaves, then a couple people leave, then all of a sudden, everyone leaves. Think about it when people start clapping. When someone starts clapping, all of a sudden, a couple people start clapping, and before you know it, the whole stadium's clapping. There are examples of this everywhere. It's feedback cycles. An example that's probably most relevant is a feedback cycle of what I like to call self-worth and deservingness. And let me give you a very clear example to illustrate this. Many years ago, I had a math teacher who today, I honestly can't even remember her name, right? She's completely meaningless in the overall scheme of my life, but she had a very profound impact on my early life. One day, she told me that I was bad at math. And I believed that. Why wouldn't I? I was a kid. She was my teacher. She was the authority figure. And when she said that, it set off a negative feedback spiral in my life. It formed a negative thought in my mind, which formed into a belief, which then ultimately became my reality. And how we can use this in our own lives is we either have positive feedback cycles or we have negative ones. And this is so incredibly important to understand because it literally happens everywhere in your life. Think about it like this, another example, because I want to give as many examples as I can to make this as clear as possible. Think about a man out there who all of a sudden gets attention from a beautiful woman for the first time in his life. That gives him confidence that if this beautiful woman is interested in him, maybe other women might be. And because of the confidence that he got from talking to that beautiful woman and her being interested in him, all of a sudden he has that confidence which makes other beautiful women interested in him. And it's this positive feedback cycle. What you think is what you think about, and what you think about becomes your belief, and what you believe with enough work becomes your reality, which reinforces your original thought. And I know that's kind of a lot, and I'm going to say it all the time. What you think is what you end up thinking about, and what you think about becomes your beliefs. And what you believe with enough work, enough consistent action taking and work, what you believe becomes your reality. And then that reality reinforces what you originally thought. And one tiny, meaningless thought can set off a spiral and can make someone very depressed and broken if it's a negative feedback spiral, or it can make somebody confident and unbreakable. And this can happen relatively quickly. And think about it like this. If I hadn't have made that one tiny, seemingly insignificant decision to give YouTube everything I had and give this entrepreneurship thing a try, you probably wouldn't be hearing this right now. The people whose lives have completely changed because of my training and the communities that I've created, they might still be trapped in their 9-to-5 job right now. They might have found other mentors, they might have not, but I would never have been able to generate millions of dollars in just a few short years had I not made that one tiny, insignificant at the time decision to put all of my focus on YouTube and to really give this entrepreneurship thing a try. And if you hadn't have made the decision to join this course that you're in right now, and if you don't make the decision to actually stick with it, maybe you stick with things that you set your mind to. If you do, you're in very rare company. Or maybe this course is going to start the first upward feedback cycle that is going to completely change your life. Because for the first time, you really are going to stick to it, block out other distractions, block out the noise, and really make something very meaningful happen. But if you hadn't made the decision, the tiny, insignificant, in the grand scheme of the universe, decision to join this course, a year from now, everything could be completely different. A year from now, if you hadn't have joined, maybe you'd be in the same place you are right now. Or a year of extremely hard work and dedication to the craft and to the course and what you learn inside of this program, a year from now, you could be retired. You could be working entirely from home, spending all the time you want with your family and your friends and traveling the world and doing the things that you want. Because you can have everything you want with the proper mindset and consistent action. That is a fact. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not making this video to waste your time. I've proven it. And I've seen so many of my students prove it as well. And they all have one thing in common. And that is the correct mindset. And this same exact ideal holds true in every facet of your life. Think about how you met your wife or your husband. It all started off with one tiny, seemingly insignificant decision to start a conversation, to walk up to them, to buy them a beer. Maybe you talk to them at the coffee shop. And that little conversation, whether it was at school or at work, wherever it was, that tiny, insignificant conversation flourished into what's now hopefully one of the most important things in your life. That is the power of your mind, and that's the power of controlling and taking ownership of your mindset. So don't discount mindset. The computer cannot function without the operating system. And the people who go on to be wildly successful with this program and in their lives in general will not only deeply understand the mindset lessons that I teach, but they'll consistently practice them every single day. And just like the computer can't function without the operating system, a car can't function without the engine. Think about it like this. If you don't get consistent sleep and exercise and eat right, which is, all done based on habits and controlling your mindset, if you don't do those, you won't have enough energy throughout the day. And if you don't have energy, you can't get into a proper work zone. And if you can't get into a proper work zone, you can't efficiently get things done. It's all interconnected. And some people watching this are going to roll their eyes and skip this video and try to go on to the tactics. But the people who are going to leave their 9-to-5 job from this program, and trust me when I tell you, multiple people have done exactly that from this exact program. The people who are going to go on to do that and become millionaires from this program, they're already feeling the chills. They're already really starting to see the light bulbs come on. because mindset can change your entire life. And I want to come back to my teacher telling me that I was bad at math, because this is a really important lesson to understand. At the time, I believed her, right? Because again, I wasn't in a position to question the teacher as a child. You're led to believe that the teacher is right, and you're meant to follow their teachings. And it's the same thing with a boss or someone in a position of power in your life. It doesn't have to be a teacher. This is just an example to really illustrate this. And again, what do you think happened? Every time a math test came up, I said, I can't do this. And for my whole childhood, I dreaded math tests because I genuinely believed that I wasn't good at math just because that one teacher said that. And remember, I can't even remember her name at this point, but I will never forget what she said to me. And that's the power of a chain reaction because of what one person, one completely meaningless person on the grand scale of things said to me. I was plagued my entire childhood into a self-fulfilling prophecy that I was bad at math. One meaningless comment from one meaningless person changed my entire perspective on myself and on my own abilities. And you never know what's going on in people's lives. When they say things like this, she could have been going through a divorce. Maybe her dog died the night before. It's not relevant to the story of what was happening in her life when she said it. All that matters is that one insignificant comment multiplied and grew into a devastating virus in my mind until it affected my entire worldview and existence. And just like how a teacher telling you you're bad at math when you're a kid can make you be horrible at math for life, it's the same thing if you think you're bad at technology. If you tell yourself that you're bad at technology, which many people do, especially people that are a little bit older that join my programs, and there are many people who do that, that's probably why you believe you're bad at technology, if you do. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just an evolution of a thought that has just stemmed and become systemic and taken over your entire mentality. And a really powerful lesson that I've learned is that all human beings seek evidence to support what they believe and attempt to reject evidence that goes against it. So let me explain so I can really illustrate this. So if my math teacher tells me I'm bad at math, my current situation says I'm bad at math. If there's a math test coming up, I say, okay, well, I'm doomed to fail. I'm already bad at math. And if I think I'm going to fail, then my actions support that by not even trying, because the evidence of my teacher saying I'm bad at math supports the outcome of me failing my math test. So what happens? It means if I already know I'm going to fail on my math test, I say, well, what's the point of studying, right? I'm already bad at math. And then because I don't study, I fail the test, and it supports that negative feedback cycle. But what happens if you flip the same idea on its head completely? If you set a genuine belief that there will be a positive outcome for the future, then a funny thing happens. You take a ton of action towards reaching that outcome. And when you do take a bunch of action, you're exponentially more likely to experience a positive outcome that reinforces your hypothesis. Right? This is a visualization and it actually works. Picture it enough times, ingrain it, laser etch it into your mind, and eventually, with enough consistent, focused action, what you visualized becomes a reality. And no one is inherently bad at technology or inherently bad at anything. Some people are just more natural with it solely because of their upbringing and experience using it. It's a mental block and nothing more when you think that you're inherently bad at technology. Nothing more, right? People are not intrinsically dumb. Two people, one thinks they're bad at technology, one doesn't. Both of those people are equally capable of Googling the answers and tutorials and walkthroughs, because those exist for everything now. But who do you think has the mindset and confidence in themselves to do it? The person who has mentally given up before it even begins because they're quote unquote bad at technology? Or the person who understands that we all have the same fingers and the same keyboards and the same access to the internet, and we all have access to the answers we seek? We just have to believe in ourselves that we can do it. That is the ultimate advantage. And think about it like this. The only reason people are quote unquote dumb is because they think they're dumb. And they've been told they're dumb, and the actions they take are consistent with someone who is dumb. And if you're already dumb, why would you work hard to get smarter? It's really as simple as that. And this is coming from someone who thought that they were dumb and whose teachers told were dumb too. And when you believe that you are not inherently or inevitably bad at anything, and that you can in fact learn anything just as well as someone else with enough intentional effort and focus, then the world really becomes your oyster. And I want to introduce a kind of mentality and mindset that completely changed my life, because I've said this a number of times, but the difference between millionaires and everyone else is millionaires have a slightly greater willingness to Google things. And it's what I like to call the GEN mentality, which stands for Google It Now. And while the purpose of this whole course is to be the most comprehensive tutorial ever made about how to start a wildly successful YouTube business, the thing is, guys, it's not possible to make a course that answers every single question. Somebody in Zimbabwe, for example, setting up their Google AdSense account, I can't include how to set up a Google AdSense account for every country in the world. I try to make it as comprehensive as possible, but there will inevitably be situations where you have to Google things to try to find answers to small questions. And you can either let that completely halt your progress and all of your momentum, or you can adopt the GEN mentality and you can Google it now. And once you have the GEN mentality, you have to catch yourself when you think, well, I don't know how to do X. I don't know how to blank. And you need to insert instead, well, I don't know how to blank yet. So incredibly important. And then you simply Google it, right? You watch YouTube tutorials. And by doing that and getting into the habit of doing that, all of a sudden, you enter the top 1% of people anywhere of all entrepreneurs. And I still Google things every day to this day. And, luckily, I have a large team now who can help me with research and Googling all this stuff. But we Google search and watch YouTube tutorials every single day. And people with a GEN mentality understand that YouTube and Google literally have tutorials on pretty much everything. And the private student group has everything else. But you don't want to just come to the private student group or ask me or ask anyone right from the start. You want to get into the habit of not being a victim. You want to be enabled. You want to be a leader. You want to be somebody who can do something yourself. And like I said before, the difference between millionaires and everyone else is a slightly greater willingness to Google it now. Because people who create meaningful success in their lives, they take responsibility for the results in life. They don't blame anyone else. They don't play the victim. People who are victims get nothing in life. And you don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be saying it's the president's fault, it's the government's fault, or it's your internet connection, or you were tired. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, nobody cares, right? People only care about results. And the people who are saying that their life is out of their control, they're basically just bouncing around in life, and whatever happens to them happens, and bouncing around with no purpose and no direction. And to be successful, you need two things. You need belief and you need an invincible focus. You need to have the belief that you can be successful, because if you truly believe it, your actions will align with that belief. And with enough consistent actions, you will start to actually get results. And when you get results, you get confidence that feeds that initial belief. And the chain reaction literally becomes unstoppable. It's an upward feedback cycle. And to answer the question that we talked about in the beginning about the bamboo tree, it grows 90 feet tall in 5 years. Not 5 weeks, because at any time, if the person had stopped watering and nurturing and fertilizing that bamboo tree or dream or whatever you want to talk about from a metaphorical perspective, the bamboo tree would have died in the ground. And nourishing your mindset to flourish in an unstoppable force of confidence and upward trending success is the same exact way. It takes consistent and meaningful action, right? Not just for a day, watching a motivational YouTube video or this video or listening to a podcast and then just reverting back to your old habits. I'm talking about real transcension, right? Earth-shattering change. And if you're here listening to this and you didn't skip this video, you're already in the 1%, whether or not you realize it or believe it. Just by being here, you've already taken the first step to waking up from the matrix. And I get the same question every single day. People and my students and everyone ask me, Dylan, what is the difference between your students that get crazy results, your students that create a successful YouTube empire and quit their 9-to-5 jobs, and your students who don't? And the answer is one word, which probably should be obvious at this point. It's mindset. It affects everything, from the business and investment decisions you make to your stress levels, your overall happiness, your feeling of fulfillment. Think about it like this. If you study any pro athlete or any ultra successful business person, they are masters of controlling themselves and controlling their own mindset, because life isn't really about how you perform when things are good. It's more about how you perform when things are going bad or things just aren't great yet. It's really important to understand these things and learn how to protect your downside. When things go bad, how to just pull right through it like nothing ever happened. This is really long-term, massive, meaningful improvement in mastery. And the most important thing that I can possibly tell you is do the work. If you show up, take notes, you get motivated, and then you don't do the work, I can guarantee you that nothing is going to happen or improve for you. If you just come here and you're listening and doing nothing, you're going to get nothing. I guarantee it. You have to show up, you have to learn, you have to keep an open mind, but most importantly, you have to take action. And sometimes people say, well, Dylan, mindset is easy for you. You've already made it, right? You already have financial freedom. You're just living the dream. So of course it's going to be easy for you to have the right mindset. But what most people don't realize is mindset is most important when you don't have it, right? When you don't have financial freedom or time freedom yet. When you don't have as much money as you want. That is when you need mindset the most. And what people don't realize is that I created my story when I was sitting in my cubicle years before this all started entirely in my head. I didn't know exactly how it was going to happen or how down to the last detail, but I knew it was going to happen. I wrote my history before it happened. I knew I wasn't destined for the 9-to-5 life. I knew I was destined for more. And I took everything that was bad about my past life and I rewrote it as something I was thankful for and experiences, that I learned from and I came out stronger from. And a lot of people drift through life thinking, I'm just going to wait for the perfect time, then I'll make effort. But the reality is you'll be waiting your whole life and it won't happen, right? You have to intervene in your own life. There is no perfect time. It literally doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. It starts with changing your beliefs, because when you believe something, you'll take action in accordance with those beliefs. And when you have a belief and you take action, you get results and you gain confidence from those results, which feeds your belief and thus your actions. Right? You're never going to have all the information that's required to make a perfect decision. It's literally impossible to make a perfect decision. There is no such thing as a human being being able to make a perfect decision. It doesn't exist. The human mind is simply not capable, right? It cannot compute all of the data in the world to be able to make a perfect decision. It's not possible. Not even with supercomputers, anything can you make a perfect decision. You do the research, you do your due diligence, you watch the course, you take notes, watch the course a second time without taking notes so that you can really kind of understand it rather than just trying to memorize it, and then you execute. And it's so easy to stagnate and get stuck learning forever, right? Don't allow yourself to fall into that trap. Watch it, learn it, take notes from it, breathe it, understand it, ask questions if you need to, and then take massive action. And when I first started, I made all sorts of mistakes, probably some of which you probably wouldn't even believe, right? I was super anxious and doubtful in myself. My friends and family doubted me and said I was crazy for trying this whole entrepreneurship thing. And the only person who believed in me was myself. And if you have a wife or a husband or a partner or a friend who believes in you, you're lucky, because I didn't have that. I didn't have a mentor who had proven that this works. I didn't have a step-by-step course to follow. I had none of that. And so I want you to realize that by being here, you're literally miles ahead of where I started. And you can see, right, look at your screen, you can see what this has become since the moment I started. And if you have this huge advantage that I didn't have, think about where you'll be able to take this. This is what most people have to understand. No one starts out with a perfect business and has complete confidence in themselves. Everything feels imperfect, right? You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to question whether or not you're doing the right thing. That's how everyone feels about the first version of themselves and their business. It's totally normal. It's healthy. It's how everyone felt at first, including me. And it's the same exact way that, all of my now successful students felt. And it's the same way that every single one of the people who have come through this exact training and listened to this exact same video felt when they first started. You need to understand that. You need to look at the information, give yourself, a reasonable amount of time to do the proper research and due diligence, all of which you're going to learn later on in the course. Nothing I'm going to leave out. And then once you've done that, you take massive action, you stick to it, and then eventually you're going to get enough feedback to improve on the next version, right? So don't allow yourself to overcomplicate things, because allowing yourself to get overwhelmed and feel overwhelmed by all of this is the number one poison to success. And I'm going to repeat that because it's so incredibly important. Allowing yourself to get overwhelmed and to feel overwhelmed by this, when you can watch these videos as many times as you want, allowing yourself to get overwhelmed is the number one killer of success. When you're feeling overwhelmed, stop for a bit, right? Play some Xbox, go for a jog, go to the gym, take a nap, smoke a blunt, right? And then once you're done, come back and approach things one step at a time. And don't allow yourself to doubt the course. We have millions of dollars of evidence to back up that this process works. We've transformed people who are working 9 to 5 jobs making 30 grand a year to making 30 grand in a month, right? Or even myself, look at the screen. We're doing back-to-back $300,000 months, right? That's a lot of evidence. So don't doubt yourself and don't doubt the course. Don't doubt the blueprint. It works incredibly well. You just need to trust the process, trust yourself, and do the work. And if you do all of that, then the truth is it will work for you. And speaking of the quote-unquote truth, one of the best lessons I've learned as an entrepreneur is that it doesn't matter what is true. What matters is what you believe to be true, because with enough consistent, focused actions, it will become true. And that sentence is one of the most important things I could possibly teach you. So I'm going to say it again. Print it out, get a tattoo of it on your face, write it in a Sharpie on your laptop screen, whatever you need to do. It doesn't matter what is true. What matters is what you believe to be true, because with enough consistent actions, it will become true. We have our belief and our reality, and our belief becomes our reality. And if our current reality isn't what we want, then we're doomed unless we change our beliefs about it. And we can't change your reality without first changing your beliefs. It's impossible, right? We have to take action, we have to do things. Thoughts on their own won't do anything. We need to have a thought, and then we need to do an action. And we need to just keep taking action and reflect quickly back and forth between the two. You need to have the belief, you need to have the action, then you need to make it come into existence. And you need to listen to the feedback and adjust the belief in accordance with the actions. Your beliefs are just as important as your actions. And as your beliefs are growing, your actions are growing. And as your actions are growing, your confirmed reality is growing. And as your confirmed reality is growing, boom, your beliefs are growing. Everything is feeding off of each other in this invincible upward feedback cycle. And to succeed, you must first begin. And to begin, you must first take action. And to take action, you need to have belief in yourself. Because I wasn't smarter than anyone else, right? There were plenty of people in my high school who were smarter than me, who had better test scores than me, who got into better schools. And most of them right now, I've checked up on them, are making $75K in a year. And I make $75K in a weekend. And so if they were smarter and they got better grades and better test scores, then what's the difference? Mindset and self-belief. I was never the smartest person, right? But no one believed in themselves and their abilities more than me. I can guarantee you that, right? And I wasn't born that way. I worked for that every single day. And it was hard to believe in myself when everyone else in my life, all the external opinions, my parents, my family, my friends, my coworkers, all said and thought one way with what I like to call the hive mind. And I went against it. The problem is people want to fit in with social circles and adjust their behavior to fit in. People don't want to stir the pot and cause conflict and be disowned, so they never question anything. And without realizing it, they join the hive mind and they attack anyone who questions the collective beliefs of the hive mind. So when I was going to go do my own thing and become an entrepreneur instead of working 40 years for someone else, making them rich, fitting in and just being a sheep, following the herd, everyone said, oh gosh, Dylan, are you sure? I don't want you to get your hopes up. Don't you know that 87% of businesses fail? Are you sure? I just don't want to see you get hurt. Do you have a backup plan? And I said, of course I don't have a backup plan. Why would I have a plan B when all that does is distract me from plan A? And what happens is 6 months later, 12 months later, all those people who were warning you and giving you advice to try to suck you back into the 9 to 5 hive mind where they feel comfortable, they see your business explode, and all your friends and family and everyone who told you not to do it and to be careful, they say, oh wow, Dylan, I knew you'd be successful. And of course, it would be very easy to be resentful, but I don't blame anyone for it, right? I still love them all. But the point is, you're always going to have a ton of people in the hive mind who are going to try to question things. They're going to try to push against you, and they're going to try to push against your progress as an entrepreneur. And it is literally make or break for you to form your own opinions and your own viewpoints and to question everything and to become an independent thinker. And I want to teach you to think for yourself and to avoid the biased, delusional hive mind which makes up most of society. If you want to be successful, if you want to make a ton of money, if you want to live a beautiful life that you hold the steering wheel of, you must become what I like to call a reflective, experimental researcher of your own life. And let me explain what that is. Participants just get stepped on. Participants get nothing, right? You have to learn how to become an experimenter, a researcher, a reflector. You have to learn to become intentional. Who I am today is not who I was when I was a 9-to-5 drone. If you met me then and you met me now, we're totally different people. One person blamed everyone other than himself for where he was in life. One person was very immature and thought that he could do nothing, really make no effort, and expected the world in return. The people who refuse to change anything about themselves and just want to make more money, how much money do you think they're going to make? They never make any money. The people who are open to change and improvement, they are always the ones who make the most money, and it's not even close. Being outside of my comfort zone is my new comfort zone. And for most people, they never want to go there. They resist leaving their comfort zone at all costs. And what you believe becomes your reality. We're not just someone and that's it. We're always becoming someone. Your identity forms your reality. This is who you are, and this is the way things are. And without intent, we're going to experience a random result because life is always moving. We can't just live the life we desire without intent. And if you're not intentional about who you're becoming and what your life becomes, you're just a pinball in the machine of life, just bouncing around endlessly out of your own control. And that's not where you want to be. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, who am I becoming? That is the question. If you ask the question, who am I? If you look at your current situation now and it's not very good, then that belief confirms that reality. You need to change your belief. And instead of saying, who am I? You need to ask the question, who am I becoming? We have to take action. We have to do things. Thoughts on their own won't do anything. And taking action requires being decisive. You can't worry and procrastinate forever about making decisions. One thing every successful person has in common is the ability to make large decisions quickly and accurately. And I don't mean being irrational. I mean taking the information presented, evaluating it very thoroughly, and then making a decision. You have to make a decision to be successful and intentional and to get the results you want in life. Otherwise, you're going to drown. And let me give you an example. When I was looking to purchase my penthouse in Miami, I looked at probably 10 each time. And after narrowing through many hundreds of places before ever wasting time actually setting foot physically in them, I gave myself 2 days to find the perfect place after I did my initial filtering online. Right, so day one, I looked at 5 places. I knew none of them were it. It was done. I never even gave it a second thought. On day 2, the first of the 5 that I looked at, I knew it was it. I said, it's done. And my real estate agent said, are you sure? Right? Don't you want to see some of the rest of the places we have lined up? She was shocked, right? She'd never seen someone make decisions like that, especially on such a large purchase. And obviously, we looked at comparisons and we made a fair offer and we had the inspection done and did all the due diligence. But the point is, guys, 85% of your decisions should be made immediately. Evaluate inputs efficiently, massive certainty, make a decision, it's over. 85% of the decisions in your life should be made immediately. Because remember, mental fatigue is very real. It's science. There's a reason billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, one of the richest people in the world, wears the same t-shirt every single day. Because he doesn't want to waste his finite mental energy on meaningless decisions like what to wear. And speaking of billionaires, have you ever thought about why some people have more money than others while we all have the same exact amount of time? Because time is one thing that we all have a fair share of, right? We all have the same exact amount of time. Well, the answer is because some people work towards automation and infinite scale, while other people's crippled themselves by only making money by doing things that requires them to be physically there or manual work. And with a finite number of hours in the day, and constant, continuous distractions in our lives, how do we decide what to spend our time on to produce the results that we desire fastest? And the way I like to do that is something called the Pareto principle. This is also known as the 80-20 rule. It's a theory that maintains that 80% of the output from any given situation or system is determined by 20% of the input. So 20% of what you spend your time on gives you 80% of the results you want. The other 80% of what you spend your time on does not. And so why does 80-20 happen? Because it's a really important question. It's probably one of the most important questions in the world, or at least in the top 20% of most important questions, because think about it. 80% of the planet is water. 20% of the planet is land. 80% of the land is in 20% of the countries. 80% of the snow and rain is in 20% of the countries. 80% of the crime is committed by 20% of the people. 80% of health issues are experienced by 20% of people. 80% of struggle and pain is experienced by 20% of the people. And so it doesn't really matter where you look. 80-20 presents itself everywhere. In the USA, 80% of the population lives in 20% of the cities. Inside of a state, 80% of any state population lives in 20% of the cities. And then inside any city, 80% of the city population lives within 20% of the suburbs. And I could go on and on. 80% of the traffic jams happen on 20% of the streets. And so why does this happen? It's something that I call the avalanche effect. And if you've ever been to a party and one person leaves, all of a sudden everyone starts to leave. So if a lot of people are joining the party, then it's going to start getting positive. More people are joining. But as soon as people start leaving, it's going to start spiraling down. Things can spiral up or they can spiral down, depending on whether the feedback is positive or negative. And I know we touched on this before, but it's so important to control this upward or downward trend in your life. And it's probably literally the most important thing that I can possibly teach you. How to control the trends in your life, because it feeds on itself like a chain reaction that becomes unstoppable. If you're working hard and you're working towards the right thing and you're getting results, you feel good and you feel confidence, and that confidence enables you to be more decisive. And when you're more decisive, you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, your business grows and everything just goes so positive. But that can also happen negatively. And you need to understand when things are happening negatively or positively and how to control it. Because once you start building up a bunch of money, you start to earn a lot of interest on that money. And that affects you by adding more money to your bank account. And that feeds back onto the interest on all that money. It just keeps spiraling up and up and up. Not only that, we see the same thing on the internet, like with YouTube videos. As soon as a video starts getting a lot of views, it gets more and more views. It has a feedback growth type of effect. And some people like Jeff Bezos, for example, they make more than $1 billion in a day because they built up their beliefs. And they've confirmed those beliefs immeasurably with their actions, and they've built very strong, invincible automation infrastructure in an upward spiraling feedback loop that exponentiated over the years. And I know that's a lot, right? I know what I just said is a lot, but these people build these invincible infrastructures of upward feedback cycles. They are feeding on themselves and building up on themselves and just gaining an unbelievable amount of momentum. And when you're first starting out, you're going to be tempted to do anything other than the work you need to be doing in order to be successful and create that infrastructure and to create that upward trending feedback cycle. This is what the procrastinating human mind does naturally. You're starting a brand new chapter in your life that has the potential to change everything. Some things are going to feel challenging. They're going to push you outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to want to do anything and everything else other than what you know needs to be done to reach your goals. And the people who find success, they take 100% responsibility for themselves and their situations. You need to take responsibility and understand that where you are in life right now is your own doing. You did it all. And as you proceed further into the course, you might catch yourself thinking, wow, Dylan, this is a lot of work. And you're right. It is a lot of work becoming wealthy. It is a lot of work becoming financially free and living the life of your dreams. And remember, I could have easily made this course significantly less detailed and packed with information so that it didn't overwhelm anyone. But that would be doing you a massive disservice. And so I put everything you possibly need to be successful and everything that I wish I knew when I was first starting out. Things that would have saved me so much time and so much effort and all the missed opportunities and things I did at my own expense. But it's up to you to remember what I said. If you ever feel yourself becoming overwhelmed, we're here for you, right? You can easily pause the video, go do something for an hour and a half, for an hour, but set a strict schedule to come back and learn, right? Don't just go relax and play video games for the rest of the day. Do it for an hour, set an alarm, and then be accountable to yourself to actually start up when you told yourself you would. Because if becoming wealthy was easy, everyone would do it, right? Why wouldn't they if it was so easy? You're literally writing the book of your life, of your legacy. And I can guarantee you that doing what you're doing right now, this course, this is the smartest and fastest way to do it in a real, meaningful, impactful, scalable, and beautiful way. And to do it, most importantly, in the shortest amount of time. Because probably the single most common question that I get 100 times a day on Facebook and Instagram and emails and chats and everywhere is, Dylan, what is the most vital, life-changing number one piece of advice you could give, right? The number one thing that if nothing else mattered, what made you successful? And the answer is so obvious to me. It is literally because I didn't give up. Steve Jobs has a quote that I love. When you look closely, most overnight successes actually took a long time. People see successful people how they are now, but they forget about all the failures and the blood and the sweat and the tears that it took for successful people to get to where they are now. And before I did the right things as an entrepreneur, I did the wrong things a lot, right? I tried to make funny t-shirts and sell them, which is wrong. I tried to start a landscaping business way back in high school. That was wrong. I tried Shopify dropshipping. I tried Amazon FBA, that was wrong. Affiliate marketing, which was all wrong. I did everything wrong, but by doing the wrong things, I eventually found the right things. And then I was able to remember what the right things were and what the wrong things were. And I just transgressed through every possible variation and found out what worked and what didn't, and eventually got to the point where things worked more often than they didn't. And that experience is invaluable that you get just by trying things. But think about it like this, and this is so important, so pay attention. What would have happened if I had done everything wrong and given up before I broke through and found what worked? If I had stopped at any point, any failure, any wrong decision, if I had stopped, I would never have reached the point in my life where I am right now. And I realized that I had literally evolved to my next form. I was no longer the same person. I literally became someone who questioned the status quo and didn't listen to the hive mind, but rather have learned to think for myself and come to my own conclusions through careful experimentation and self-reflection. And this happens inside the course every single day. Massive, life-changing transformations. I remember meeting one of my students, right? One of my very first students ever. She was in her 40s at the time. She was shy. She had a corporate job. And she had literally been brainwashed by society in a cubicle life for decades. And I'm embarrassed now to admit this and say this, but I remember thinking to myself, wow, she's going to have a really hard time making this entrepreneurship thing work. But the thing I didn't realize is she is not the same person now that she was when she first joined the course. She became someone else. She used to think that success was climbing up the corporate ladder, and now she's making $30K a month from home, which is significantly more than she used to be making at her corporate job, and now she's doing it working significantly less hours from the comfort of her own home. And she's making more for herself than she was even after decades in the workforce at her previous job. She made more working for herself, following this exact same blueprint that you now have access to, and she did it in 100th of the time. And that is powerful. And the funny thing is, I did the same exact thing. And you might be thinking, but Dylan, you're the same person you've always been. And you're right? I do have the same body. I am still Dylan, but I'm completely different than when I was, broke taking orders at a 9-to-5 job. That old person, they lacked confidence. They didn't think outside the box. They didn't question the status quo and the way things are done. That person was self-centered and expected the world to change for him without changing himself. He thought money was difficult to get, and he thought that he should save his money because that's how you get more money. He thought that you should turn off all the lights to conserve energy around the house. But now, that's all changed. I live every day to the fullest. I enjoy my life and everything inside of it, and people speak to me differently. People speak about me differently when I'm not around. Women and men respect me more, and I interact with the world with a newfound and deserved confidence. And the way that changed was conquering my mind and, most importantly, my habits. Because if you can control your habits, even for a day or for a week, then the next week becomes a little bit easier, and the next month becomes a little bit easier, and then all of a sudden you have the exponential return of all this compound interest from the increased incremental productivity. And one of the best ways to change your habits is understanding what I like to call the lazy mind. Because when you can control your lazy mind with in the moment decisions, you instantly become 100 times more powerful. And so what exactly is the lazy mind? An exercise I like to do is imagine how your friends would talk about you in a casual setting without you. What would they say about you, right? Maybe they would say that you could be successful, but you don't apply yourself. Maybe that you drink or party too often, or that you lack focus. Or if your friends don't know about your bad habits, you do, because most people, all of us, have some bad habits, or at least have had some things that we can improve on. This is how you would define your current character and what you stand for, and how the outside world perceives you, or how they would perceive you if they knew you as well as you know yourself and your current habits. And let me illustrate this with an example. Let's say it's the first thing in the morning when you wake up, it's 8 a.m., you hear the alarm, and the first thought that pops into your head is, oh, Dylan, you can go back to sleep, you can just cancel the meetings, you can do them tomorrow, you already have enough money, right? You can just do nothing and watch movies all day. Those are the first things that come into your mind. That is your lazy mind. And you have to learn to recognize when this happens and say to yourself, wait, no, I'm not going to let my lazy mind get away with that. Not today. Sometimes I will audibly say out loud, not today, lazy mind, right? And I know that sounds ridiculous, but you have to gamify your habits. When it's a game and when you're in a competition with yourself, you're so much more likely to be consistent and win. And then I physically force myself using my conscious mind to get out of bed and go to the gym or go shower and start my day. And I feel fantastic, right? I feel way better than I would have if I would have slept in all day. And think about it like a competition. I'm not going to allow my lazy mind to win. I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to do it every day. And if you do it enough days in a row, your life starts to seriously change for the better. And this is extremely powerful because you no longer fall victim to the lazy and the doubtful voices in your head that are telling you to give up, or, not to go talk to, this beautiful woman that you see at the coffee shop, or to not, push through as hard as you can to change your life. Self-doubt is the ultimate killer of success and evolution and growth as a person, right? Self-doubt and allowing yourself to become overwhelmed are the two biggest killers of success. And what you have to understand is that self-doubt is nothing but a devil in our ear that wants us to fail and wants us to be average forever. And when you take a step back and you see that little self-doubt devil trying to sabotage you and trying to drag you down, you recognize that self-doubt is just an illusion trying to drag you down when you actually can grow. And you can say, not this time. I recognize that self-doubt is coming. I'm going to trust the data. I'm going to trust the work that I put in every day until my beliefs become my reality. Because all of us have self-doubt. It's human nature. But as you start to experience more success and you get small wins on your belt, it gets easier and easier to ignore self-doubt and to recognize it for what it is. Self-doubt exists because we evolved in history, right, to protect us from real-world physical danger, such as predators. We evolved instincts to protect us, right? Self-doubt literally causes us to doubt our decisions, which increases the likelihood of making the right one and staying safe and continuing with our species. But, now that we live in a modern day society where there isn't impending danger trying to kill us every corner, we don't need it anymore, even though we evolved with it. If you're in a cave and you're a caveman, and there's a T-Rex outside, you can't just stroll out without thinking, well, maybe I should doubt going out into the open. Maybe I'm going to get eaten by a predator. But now that we don't need that, we still have it from evolution. And so we have to kill it. And we have to learn how to kill it fast. But the problem is, it's hardest to kill self-doubt when you're first beginning. Because what's the number one way to kill self-doubt? It's experiencing success. But when you're first starting out, you haven't experienced it yet. So you have to inherently trust me, inherently trust all of the student success stories, inherently trust all of the students inside of the private family group, and trust everyone over on my Instagram page who doesn't have Facebook. And that's hard for some people. They give up because they doubt themselves. They doubt their abilities, they doubt everything. But you have to trust the data, trust the process, trust the blueprint, trust the course, because it's the best way to defeat self-doubt. Even if you don't believe in yourself yet, believe in me, right? Believe in all the students who've made this work before you. And then once you start to build momentum and you start to experience some success, the rest is history. Because truly evolving as a person is when you pull the strings in your daily life and your self-doubt and your lazy mind become the consistent, obedient loser to your conscious mind. Instead of being a slave to your bad habits, you become the master of them. And I've gotten really good at fighting my lazy mind, right? When I wake up in the morning, my lazy mind complains and it moans and groans and says, and it wants to fight back and go back to sleep. But my conscious mind knows that I should get up and go to the gym. And then when I get to the gym, my lazy mind complains and says that it doesn't feel like working out. And then my lazy mind puts up a fist and my conscious mind grabs a bazooka and blows my lazy mind out of the water. Because your mind, like any part of you, is a muscle. And the more you exercise and feed that muscle memory of your conscious mind and your mind succeeding over your lazy mind, the easier it becomes each time. And here's a story to illustrate this completely. I was so scared to start my business initially that I would wake up and think of getting out of bed, and then I'd lie to myself about the benefits of staying asleep. I'd say things like, oh, well, if I sleep in, I'll be more focused and alert and really ready to concentrate on work. I would literally lie to myself, and then I would deny the responsibility of improving my life. I'd say things like, oh, well, it doesn't even matter if I get up. What would that change? What would one day at the gym change? And then I'll go back to sleep. And then what would happen is I would regret sleeping in. Later on in the day, I would regret it. And then to make myself feel better, and this probably seems familiar to some of you all as well, I promised myself that that was the last time, right? I promised myself, oh, that's not going to happen again. And I did this with my business as well, right? I would start the workday knowing what I needed to do to be successful, and I would lie to myself and say things like, oh, it's okay, I can just do it tomorrow. And then I would read some blogs and watch some YouTube videos and post on Instagram, and I would stay stuck in the forever learning mode and denying all responsibility for my financial and business situation. And then later on, I would regret my decision and then promise myself again, oh, well, tomorrow's the day, right? And then I repeated it over and over and over again. But when you can separate and you have the introspective and self-reflective ability required to see and recognize the difference between your lazy mind and your conscious mind, everything changes, and it can literally change today. All it takes is one day, and then the next day becomes a little bit easier. And then the next day, and the next week, and the next month, and I learned to observe my lazy mind for what it was, and I learned to recognize it when it appeared. I learned the pattern, right? My lazy mind and the habits associated with it had become so strong that it had me totally under its control. And it was constantly dragging me down, distracting me from what I knew I needed to do to reach my dreams. But for some reason, I still wasn't doing. I learned to fight my lazy mind. I learned to overpower it. I learned to win the battle against myself and my bad habits that have become ingrained in my daily life. I learned my patterns, I took control and evolved into the next better version of myself, because becoming is better than being, right? An exercise I like to do is define my dreams and then tell as many people as possible that I call accountability partners. And being successful is hard, right? It's so much easier giving up. It really is. I always say that you need true love or true hate to make it as an entrepreneur. True love for your family or your kids or your wife or your husband, or true hate for your boss or your current life or your current job. To get through all the roadblocks and bumps and the blood and the sweat and the tears that's required to build something truly meaningful and life-changing, you really have to have the pressure to succeed from external parties. From your family, from your wife or your husband or friends. The more people you tell about your dreams, the better. Right? And you want to define your dreams. You want to make it as vivid as possible. Where do you want to live? Literally, what city? What part of the city? What do you want to be doing during the day? What are your hobbies? Now tell your exact dreams in as vivid detail as possible to everyone who will listen. By the end, people were saying, Dylan, I don't care. And I was saying, I don't care that you don't care. I'm still telling you because I want to hold myself accountable. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell everyone that you can think of that you're going to make this work, because the more people you tell, the more people that get involved, and the more pressure you put on yourself and accountability you put on yourself to actually perform and reach those goals. Because human beings will do more to not look bad in front of other people than they'll do to improve themselves. It's a scientific fact, right? When you tell your husband, when you tell your wife, this is what I'm going to do and I'm 100% serious about it, then it becomes way more real and you're way more likely to actually do it, right? Tell her where you're going to live, tell her when, tell her the vacation you're going to take her on, tell her everything. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your husband, tell whoever. But the point is, tell as many people as you possibly can to hold yourself accountable. So, if we understand that habits are the foundation for success, how do you actually change your habits? Because this is probably one of the most important things that you can possibly learn to expedite your path to success. Because the only difference between millionaires and non-millionaires is consistent daily habits exponentiated over time. That is literally the only difference, and Googling helps too as well, like we mentioned. So when you take most people who are hardwired to procrastinate, it takes some real effort to get them to take action. And when I first started as an entrepreneur, my brain would scream and it would do anything else other than what I knew I needed to do. I would check emails and social media and post on Instagram because, I was lying to myself that I was adding the most value in my life that way. When in reality, it was just the easiest thing that I knew how to do and felt comfortable doing. I knew that the highest value activities I could do were video research, getting, another person on my team, doing anything to literally add more profitability to the bottom line of my YouTube business. I knew what the highest value activities were, but it wasn't until I figured out the following that I was able to really biohack my habits for the better. And here's how I hacked it. When I woke up each morning, I knew the first thing I needed to do was get to my computer, right? Ready to work. And so the only thing I would concentrate on is showering, right? Brushing my teeth, getting dressed, and getting to my computer ready to go. I wouldn't think about all my responsibilities. I didn't think about emails. I didn't think about all the videos I needed to make. I didn't think about all the meetings I had to get on with my team. I didn't think about keyword research or, training that new team member on how to make thumbnails. All I would think about was getting in front of my computer and getting dressed. That was step number one and nothing else. And my lazy mind would make every excuse, right? It would say, Dylan, you're already successful. It's raining outside or it's cold. Let's just sleep a little longer and you'll be more rested. Let's go on TikTok when you wake up, for an hour. You love watching TikToks. Or, that all this work, it can wait until tomorrow. It's actually shocking how good the human mind is at rationalizing stagnation, rationalizing inaction, rationalizing not doing anything. And it's critical to become self-aware and spot when your lazy mind attempts to overpower you and take back control. And another trick I would use is basic animalistic reward psychology. And that sounds complicated, but it's not, right? Because the human brain, similar to animals, operates on a reward basis. And what I mean by that is you do a task or something that you know you need